Hey folks, welcome to Rap Roll Call episode 2. We did have some exciting news. We purchased,
We still have some exciting
for
news.
the future,
Yeah.
we purchased some lapel mics to clean up our audio game a little bit. And after shooting a damn near 40-minute video, we realized the mic wasn't hooked up properly. And we had shot a video that sounded like it was filmed in a tin can.
Yep.
So,
However, the conversation was really good. So we're sticking with it. So episode 2, as promised from the lead up on the Instagram and the Facebook, we're talking about This Is America, Donald Glover. Next week, Top Dog's coming to town with the championship tour. We're going to be listening to that. We'll give you our feedback. But in the meantime, please bear with us. Enjoy it. We do have some insightful things to say, I feel.
definitely.
All right.
We also took feedback about minimizing a lot of the hard cuts and editing. And as a result, we have a 25-minute video for you. So seatbelts on,
Yeah.
earphones in.
Sit back, crack something open, warm up some food, put your baby to bed.
Thanks.
You heard?
This is America.
This is America.
Man, that has been all over the internet, everywhere. It's 2 weeks now, week and a half, I guess.
Yeah.
Week and a half. Time's wrong for me, I suppose. I don't even know where to start. I've had conversations at work. I've read a lot of stuff. I've tried to not expose myself too much to it because I wanted to talk about it here.
Sure.
So I don't want to sort of vulture in on other people's opinions.
Right.
So I don't even know how to start this one out as far as a breakdown, but I feel like we have to maybe split the music from the video. For me, anyway, I don't know.
Well, one of the conversations I was having recently is this is one of those instances where I don't feel like you can as easily separate the video from the music.
Right.
I feel like a lot of times a video kind of ruins or distorts the message of a song.
Right.
And kind of takes away from it, or in some cases it's just kind of supplementary and doesn't necessarily tie in directly. I feel like this was meant to be like a package deal.
Yeah.
I mean, even looking at the SNL performance, there were a lot of those, tropes and themes from the video in that performance.
Right.
But it was also very performance centric.
Yeah. Yep.
For a song that I don't really feel like has that much, maybe not depth to it, but doesn't really have that that lyrical weight to it.
The song is not deep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the first things that I wanted to say about waiting to do this sort of critique or think piece about it is, without the video, there's really not a whole lot going on.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I have my own opinions on how I feel about that being digested by the public, but the video, shot by, I think, the director who does Atlanta.
Right. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, the video is very intense. It's provocative. I mean, it's Donald Glover's own sort of 3-minute think piece, I think,
Mm-hmm.
in a small part on America. I know he's not talking about it at all, which is totally fine. I think that when
Yeah,
asked
he
about
doesn't want to do that breakdown.
Yeah,
that's why everybody else is.
Yeah, which understandably, I mean, I don't think he needs to say anything.
Right.
I mean, he's put his opinion out there.
Right.
In his music, but I think that the thing that is bothersome to me in some regard to that is the fact that there are, when you look at music and music videos, there are other ones that have come out recently that have not
garnered the same critical eye, but I feel like if we're thinking about it under the guise of, the song is called "This Is America," and there's clearly very on the nose symbolism and set pieces that are, I mean, you know, him shooting a church choir. I don't think we have to like go into what he's referencing there. I mean, just gun violence in general in the video. I mean, that's not. But the video I thought about immediately when I started thinking about how to talk about this is John Muir by Schoolboy Q.
Yeah.
And what I think is interesting is that is not called "This Is America," but that video is America for a lot of people. And the song, to me, far deeper than the lyrics on "This Is America." So it's, for me right now, it's an interesting sort of convergence of how stuff is processed and disseminated through, you know, the internet, through critical analysis. We're doing that as well here, but you know, I think one thing that struck a lot of viewers is just this very stark, the very like violent imagery on a backdrop of sort of this almost strange like minstrel show.
Yeah, definitely like some Jim Crow vibes.
Yeah. And then just very like brutal violence.
Right.
And if anybody's seen John Muir, it's just a one POV camera of a car driving around what is presumably LA, probably Compton area, following two guys and their like daily activity that sort of makes a full circle between their car being picked up and towed away after being shot down.
Right. Well, that's not all that unlike, I don't know if you've seen Joyner Lucas's Keep It 100.
Yeah.
It's kind of the POV camera following the $100 bill.
Yeah.
Like from the moment it leaves the ATM to, you know, ending up at a strip club, at a gas station getting robbed, a homeless man, a pimp, a hoe, and like straight back to where it started.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the stick up where the $100 bill gets used.
Right.
And then, yeah. So, yeah, I think for me it comes back to, I think that it's who, for me, is the audience, pardon me. Yeah, who, for me, is the audience of Childish Gambino.
That's where I think the line is drawn, because I feel like he does have a much broader audience. Because I think because Gambino's kind of stepped into, or has been in, not only like the acting and comedy world, but also as far as his music, more in like a contemporary R&B, like Afro funk kind of, you know, realm of sound.
Yeah.
He does have a broader audience and definitely connects to a lot more of the like contemporary, like millennial, you know, mainstream audience.
Right.
And that's why this dude hits 20 million views in less than 24 hours.
Right. Well, I mean, he speaks to, I mean, he doesn't just speak to Black America.
Right.
I mean, you know, Redbone, I think for a lot of people became, you know, a very like important, I don't want to say anthem. Right. But people very much enjoyed Redbone, and I think that resonated way more in the Black community, maybe, well, more than in the white community. Listen to it, and it's Donald Glover. Mm-hmm. It's the community guy. I feel like for white America, Donald Glover is still like, it's the community guy, but he makes music.
Sure.
And he makes music that gets played on a radio. And, you know, and don't get me wrong, like, I like Donald Glover, I like Childish Gambino here and there. I enjoyed, I think it was Campfire.
Backpack? Campfire.
Campfire.
Yeah. Campfire.
Sorry, Donald Glover.
Camp.
Yeah, if you ever watched this,
Oh, man.
I apologize. This is the internet was very experimental.
Mhm.
I couldn't really get into that so much.
Didn't care for it yourself.
And then, his last album that had Redbone on it, which he won. I mean, he did win, once again, for whatever Grammys are worth.
In that contemporary R&B category.
Yeah, and I mean, it has like a really good feel to it. So he has like a really large audience, and I feel like he does play upon that, and I'm not knocking him for doing so, but I think he used his platform, and I applaud people who use their platforms for trying to send messages out. I think that that's important to understand, like where you are, and if you want to get something across, and you want to let the people know how you feel about something, use your platform. Use the internet, the views, the likes, however you have to do it. But I still, for me, it remains like, what about everybody else who is making stuff that to me felt just as important or poignant, that might have gotten left behind or wasn't given the same critical gaze as something like this, just because it was so on the nose. I mean, the cinematography is awesome. There's all kinds of, little hidden symbolism. He's wearing Confederate pants. You've got death riding on a horse. Kids jumping out of a balcony. Like, there are very, layered pieces to the whole thing. Ultimately,
So are you taking a beef with the fact that Gambino gets press coverage on this and gets this?
I think I take beef. No, I mean, I'm not going to.
Like, as opposed to anybody else who's created the same sort of conscious message or attempted to?
I think it's less beef. I mean, I have beef, but it's not with Gambino at all. I think my beef is, as always, with sort of the viewing, the structures in place that push the popular idea on people and sort of run roughshod over other things that people should pay attention to and see. I mean,
well, that's how I felt with all the publicity that Damn was getting last year, when that was 2 months, a month after Joey Badass,
Right.
All-American.
yeah.
And I love the shit out of some Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
And I love Damn too, and congratulations on the Pulitzer Award.
Right.
But I do feel like that kind of overshadowed, some of the press and praise that Joey should have gotten for All-American,
Right.
which I don't want to say in a lot of ways, in all of the ways, was a much more conscious and political and honed in message on the contemporary climate and racial climate in America.
Yeah. And I think speaking to a black man in America.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Now if that were To Pimp versus All American, I think there would be a little more of a balance in my mind.
Right.
But Damn was just not that album.
Yeah.
I think Kendrick deserves a Pulitzer, as do a lot of his peers. I'm not too sure Damn was that album.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think arguments have been made. I mean, I would make the argument that he sort of got the Scorsese treatment on that one from the Pulitzer committee. I mean, Scorsese made amazing films in the 70s and 80s, and that's not to say that he hasn't made good films since then, but he didn't win anything for them, and he's become an older man, and then he put out The Departed back in the mid-2000s, and, everybody kind of went apeshit over that movie, and that's what he won the Oscar for. And that is by far not one of his Oscar award-winning films. I mean, The Departed was perfectly fine as a film, but it was no Taxi Driver, it was no Raging Bull.
Right.
And in the same way, the argument. I mean, granted, Kendrick's breadth of creation is not as big as Scorsese's, for lack of time, but I think that it almost in a weird way, it was probably the Pulitzer being like, well, we kind of fucked up by not going with Butterfly, but also
we kind of fucked up for ignoring hip hop for the past 40 years.
Well, that too. I mean, I think I have to wonder. I mean, the Pulitzer was awarded after Kendrick did sort of hint at the idea of like making this pass at the idea that he would be passing sort of this mantle of the West Coast king,
passing it down the torch.
Yeah, onto somebody else. Which, I mean, right now I don't know who that would be. I mean, Nipsey. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who else. Like, it would seem weird to be so like nepotistic to hand it off to somebody else in Top Dog.
Dizzy Wright.
Yeah, exactly. I almost wonder if they were like, well, oh man, okay, so he did This Is Damn. Probably not going to see a project from Kendrick until, I would guess, 2020. I mean, outside of maybe something like an Untitled, Unmastered, or something like that. I don't see him doing something like that. Because he's got the tour this year. The guy's got to take a year off. I hope he takes a year off. I could do without a year of Kendrick Lamar. I love Kendrick Lamar.
And the Avengers 4.
Avenger 4 soundtrack. Yeah, reassemble Top Dog Entertainment. But I wonder if they need to like try to almost shoehorn that in before, because right now who else could they give that to? I mean, his contemporary on a pedestal or not a pedestal, but like a balancing beam, seems to me like it would be Cole. But J. Cole does not have he has not touched sort of all of entertainment society and society in the same way that Kendrick Lamar
Yeah, he
does.
doesn't necessarily have that same reach.
Yeah. I mean, lyrically, blow for blow, pound for pound.
But how did Kendrick get that reach?
Dre, I think that's some of it. That's not all of it. I think that like Anthony Tidiff, I think that Punch, I think that Top Dog runs its industry well, and I think that they do a good job of hooking up with the right people. I think that a lot of credit goes to Kendrick. Like, I think that he is a very rare breed of rapper in the sense that he writes solid rhymes. He has an ear for really quality production, and he has like a visual eye. Like, I mean, everything that came out, all of the stuff that he's put out visually, like sort of looping this back around to music videos, they're all banging. Like, I mean, they are visually stunning, especially all the stuff that he's done with like Little Homies, like him and Dave Free. Like, that stuff is amazing. But I mean, I think some of it too is like the fact that he kind of co-signed on there with Dre for Good Kid. That never hurts your brand. Like, Dr. Dre is not going to hurt your brand. I mean, even though now, I guess you can't call him Dr. Dre because of the lawsuit, but signing on with the DRE. You haven't heard about that? Some guy, I guess, took him to court and, like, he lost a lawsuit with a real doctor who goes by the name of it's Dre, like D-R-A-I, and he's a
Dr. Dre?
Doctor Dre, and Dre lost that suit. So now, I don't know what he's
Why
going
did
to
this
do.
guy wait almost 30 years to sue him?
I haven't looked into the specifics. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. At this point, Dre is, for me, kind of more of a footnote in some ways. I mean, you know, he is a pioneer in a certain sound. He has put out 2 very listenable albums. He brought up Eminem. I mean, he is the progenitor for the most listened to modern day rapper of all time. But, I mean, let's all be honest, or I'll be honest with everybody, his rhymes are pretty mediocre. I mean, he has a good ear. His production is amazing. But, I mean, at this point, he's more of a businessman. I mean, he's more of a businessman than anything else. I mean, he makes
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing what I don't want to say should be doing, but he is like, you know, moving his like money around to ventures that will sort of sustain him and possibly grow his name and his family's name. He's taking the Jay-Z route. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you co-sign with Dr. Dre, you're still going to end up, I think, in a bigger place. Like, that's, I think, a whole show right there. If Good Kid doesn't have Dre on it, is Good Kid as big as it is in a popular, critical sense? I mean, it would still be amazing. I mean, quite frankly, the Dre stuff on that record isn't really all that amazing. So the production goes to other people. But, I mean, I think that's why he's out there. What else do we have to say about Childish Gambino?
Oh, we were talking about Childish Gambino.
Yeah. I mean, did you like it?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've watched it at least a dozen or so times now and pick up on something different every time. I feel like it's really fitting in the current climate, regardless of where it's coming from or, you know, who that video is reaching versus who, you know, other videos or songs or messages aren't reaching, which is, I think, where we started this conversation.
Yeah.
I still feel that it's an important message and that it's timely and it was, you know, well put together. And I think it's, for the most part, meme culture aside, like, fuck that shit, being received in the right way.
Yeah.
When it's not being, chopped and screwed and parodied and
right. Also released like 3 or 4 days after all of Kanye's sort of verbal insanity.
That was about a week after.
Yeah, I mean, it was I think it was pretty close to the slavery comments. Yeah. I thought that was. I mean, I don't think that was timed too much, but I think that was interesting. That
right.
I think wrapping back around to Donald Glover and Gambino. I think it's interesting that he's got Solo coming out, and the reviews I've read so far really put him on sort of the higher level acting wise in that film. People sort of talking highly of his performance. But I think it's interesting because he's basically, he's reprising a role that was originally performed by Billy D. Williams, who I don't think I could say black icon, but I mean, he was pretty well known. Still is. I mean, Billy D. Williams holds a place. I mean, still the most well-known black character in Star Wars.
Yeah. But I mean, Glover is a black icon of this generation.
Yeah. No. I know. I sorry. So I guess it's more just like the way he still resonates. I mean, this goes back to what I was saying about Redbone.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think that my one weird thing with all of it for me is that I have a hard time watching Donald Glover be Childish Gambino when I like watched a lot of Donald Glover on the internet just making like dick and fart jokes. And I realized this is watching like a man who's my age like grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not to say that he can't clearly like revert back to that, and that's not to like take away from his message at all. I think it's just for me, sometimes I categorize people in my brain of like, this is the like social justice, like protest, empowerment person. This is the comedian and like funny man. This is the whatever, I don't know, the rest of it.
The jock at a community college.
Yeah, but it doesn't take away. I think, like I said before, it's not even like beef with him. It's beef with the fact that the industry still will funnel things through very narrow pipelines for people to view that they want to view, and hype things in a way that they want to hype them so that people see them, and make things that are like palatable for people to see. And I mean, I say that in the sense that I think tying it back together, what we were saying about like the song, the actual music and the visuals, song, very surface level. There's not a lot going on there. Visuals, heavy, highly symbolic. But I feel like there are excellent examples of both of those being put together, and you don't see those disseminated in the same way.
Right.
One more example of that, I would almost argue, is Era, Prime. I mean, that video, it is definitely not as visually striking, but there is definitely some heavy symbolism going on in there. And you know, it has one of hip-hop's most sort of prized sound mechanics of all time, DJ Premier. However you feel about Royce 5'9" or Dave East, that's your opinion, but I mean, it's DJ Premier. And Era, you know, came out, it got played, and it went away.
So next week on Rap Roll Call, a little post-show discussion. I know we wanted to get into a conversation about Spotify censorship, some of what's been going on with the Spotify official playlists, removing artists like Tentacion and R. Kelly.
Yep. You're gonna have to go elsewhere for your P tapes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a different playlist.
We'll get more into that next week, and any other chaos or poopity scoopity poop that comes up in the next week or so.
Yeah.
So until then, stay tuned in. Thanks for watching.